Hello and welcome to another edition of Neighborhood Training, and as promised we're going to continue on with the Acapesket Road Peninsula. Previously we did Shorewood Drive from 28 up to Great Harbors, and now we are going to work in Great Harbors. And as you can see just from looking at this map here, this area is much more populated and congested than Shorewood looks to be, and it's laid out in grid networks. And we've got to remember that in this network of roads we have Great Harbors, we also have 7Ls, the Belmar development. So we need to remember that Shorewood gets cut off from Shorewood Drive in 28, but Alcott Road as well gets cut off, and some of it is in the Belmar Estates neighborhood and some of it is in Great Harbors. Now as we go in a little closer, we'll see, I'm sure we're all familiar with, there's only one entrance and exit to Great Harbors. There's approximately, well, maybe a little under 500 houses, I should say, probably under 500 houses in Great Harbors, but there's only one way in and out. There's some cut-through roads. There's a lot of circles that we often get tripped up on. And within Great Harbors, the association has a clubhouse and tennis court, pool area, and also all of this dock space out on Great Pond. And the clubhouse, since we're talking about the clubhouse, looks like a very large single family dwelling, but matter of fact it is a this is the clubhouse, and you would kind of recognize it because the front door looks somewhat like a commercial front door. That's their clubhouse, just to be aware of. Okay, and the good thing about this area here is that there are no businesses, there aren't any multifamily units within there. It's all single-family dwellings. The other good thing is that there are hydrants throughout the whole neighborhood. So that's a good thing. We don't have to worry about not having hydrants, and we do have good flows throughout. We have 1,200, 1,500, 1,300 gallon a minute flows. There are a few things that we do have to be careful of, and we have to look at. This is an area that's very important to know the road network, especially for the people that are first due in there. Station 5 people should spend a lot of time working on this. The other thing is these houses are fairly close together. We're talking about only 30 or 35 feet between the two. So we could certainly have radiated heat go from one house to another. And while we're talking about the roads, the road network here, we'll spend some time trying to break this out so we can understand it and kind of maybe leave this session with a little better concept of it. Jenkins Street, there's no addresses on that. That's just the main entrance to Great Harbors. It's not really large enough for us to be of use, but if we do come in, they do have the map right here. As you come into Jenkins onto Alcott, they do have a map here. It's pretty easy to read, and actually it's pretty good for us to just take a quick look at, to realize we have Shorewood Drive loops down along Great Pond and then comes up this side, and Alcott is the other front road. And then we have the cut-throughs: Starboard, Sally, Joyce, the girls' names, and then Cuddy Sark. And the only color circle on Alcott is Half Moon, so we don't have to get confused about whether it's a circle on Alcott or Sherwood. There's only one circle on Alcott, and it's Half Moon. All the rest of them are off of Sherwood. And one thing that we'll keep trying to, emphasize here is between each of these cut-throughs is a circle, okay? And between Starboard and Sally is Striper, okay? So between the two S's, Starboard and Sally is Striper, and between Sally and Joyce, the two girls, is Sandpiper, and then between Joyce and Cutty Sark is Sand Dollar. So Sand Dollar and Sandpiper are right in the middle of Great Harbors. You just got to remember which one's to the north and which one's to the south. And then between Cutty Sark and the other side of Sherwood is Portside. So it sounds easy, but I think I've taken a wrong turn in there myself, trying to figure it out. But you remember Half Moon's off Alcott, and then to pick up these other the other streets. So Starboard, see Starboard there, and Striper, and then Sally, and then Sandpiper between the two girls, Sally and Joyce, and then between Joyce is Sand Dollar, between Joyce and Cutty Sark, and then Portside down the end. The other thing we want to point out is that Sherwood comes from the Sherwood Drive in 28, comes all the way down and then loops around, hooks around the back side of the development here, and runs from 259 is the first house on Sherwood in Great Harbors, and then runs up to 476 here on the corner of Alcott. Okay, and then Alcott gets cut off right here between the Belmar development right here. So 73 is the last one here, or the first one here in Great Harbors. The numbers start on Alcott down at the entrance to Belmar and run up to 63 here. So we won't, we'll get into this area here another time. I want to focus in on Great Harbors and what we are looking at there. And we will just go back here. Okay. There we go. That map's filled in now. It shows us that we have hydrants throughout that whole neighborhood there. We have just one other picture here that we want to show. As we mentioned the clubhouse. We have a lot of typical capes and ranches and even a couple colonials. There's a lot of larger homes that have been renovated that become very large right on the water on Great Pond. But there are a few of these small cottages in Great Harbors. Just one to. Sometimes you see a house that's a little different. And what I wanted to point out about this, not only is it smaller and it is a cottage type of construction, but you can see it is really the seasonal cottage type construction right here. And of course it's all closed in, there's nothing open, but these roof rafters, are 16 inches on center, but it is made in kind of a cottage style in that there is these overhangs. So some of these, remember, the internal roof rafters may be exposed inside of this house more than likely to make that kind of loft feeling. And I mention that because anytime you don't have sheetrock between those structural elements, they're going to be exposed to the heat and certainly could fail earlier and be susceptible to more fire damage. So when we see something like that, we should just be a little bit more cautious and realize anytime we have open framing on the interior of a house, that there's much more of a hazard involved there for us. Okay, so we have hydrants throughout the whole area, and we'll take a quick overview again of the review of the neighborhood. If I can get this document here to come up. Come on, peekaboo. There we go. Alright. So, the Great Harbors neighborhood with approximately 500 wood frame single-family dwellings. The hazards, or any hazard you would have with the wood frame single-family dwellings, and we have to remember that those are the places that kill and injure the most firefighters. So, it is the most hazardous occupancy out there. Sherwood Drive 259 to 479, Alcott 73. It starts more towards the Belmar and then heads up. The higher numbers are north on Alcott as you come on to Jenkins, whereas from Shorewood it's the opposite. They start their low down by where it connects with Shorewood and then higher up at the hook on the corner with Alcott. And then the cut-throughs are Starboard Drive, Sally and Joyce, and Cuddy Sark. Those are the ones that go straight through. And then the only circle on Alcott is Half Moon. So we can kind of break down this neighborhood of being all these circles and cut-throughs to say, okay, break it out. Half Moon's the only one on Alcott. And those are the cut-throughs. The two girls' names, Cuddy Sark and Starboard. And then between those two is a circle. So Striper between Starboard and Sally. Sandpiper between Sally and Joyce. Sand Dollars between Joyce and Cuddy Sark. And Portside is between Cuddy Sark and Shorewood. Now the response distances, this is an area that's close to Station 5. But one thing that we have to be concerned about is it is a little bit of a distance from Station 5, and also you get to one of the circles within the development and it could take us well over 6 minutes to get to an address, say on Sand Dollar Circle, because you have to go slow down those roads and come around. So we would be looking at well over 6 minutes to get to some of these addresses. And so it's out on the outer edge of that. Station 5, this is to an address on Sally Lane, and that's 5 minutes, and from headquarters is 5.1 is 10 minutes, and Station 4 is 6.1 is 12, and 2 it's 8.3, 16 minutes, and 3 is 9.7 is 18. So we got a little bit of a travel distance to get there. Headquarters is a little ways out. So that's why it's important to catch these roads so we can be a little bit more efficient in getting out there. All right, well, that's it for now. We'll catch you later.